Hi everyone, and welcome back to lesson 2 in my I'm Learning Python series. Now, I've done this slightly differently than the first lesson. In this lesson, what I decided to do was do my studying and produce all my notes and my test code and test them all out before producing this lesson. The reason being that there was a lot more to understand and get my head round in this lesson than the previous lesson. In the first lesson, all we really did was cover off how to install Python, how to open and run Python, and then we covered off basic variables, what they were, how you assign values to them, how you output those values, how you ask a user for input and to put those inputs into variables and then ask the computer to output them. In this lesson, we're moving on to how you start manipulating those values and that data that's been input. It gets quite a little bit more in depth. So we're going to start off with operators. Operators are really what we're focusing on in this lesson. Python, like most programs, carries out various tasks on data, and these tasks are known as operations. And I'm using that in the generic sense, in that an operation is a process to produce something or have an outcome. It's not really something that I see defined as such in programming or in coding. What seems to be defined more is a statements and expressions. Statements, I'll go over in high level. Statements are code, programming code that does something. Expressions are something within code that has an intrinsic identifiable value or outputs an identifiable value. There's a bit of overlap between the two, and I'm not going to go into it at the moment much more than that. We're just using operations in the generic term to mean to do something, to do work. So basically, today we're really looking at getting Python to do some work on some data. So operations are coded for using operators and operands. Operands are the data, such as the variable, the constant, the value, that's to be manipulated. And operators are program code, probably not the right terminology there. It's sort of like program shorthand that tells Python's interpreter how to manipulate the operands that it's been presented. And the code consisting of an operator and operands is known as an expression if it returns a value or if it fails to terminate, which I'm not going to cover. Other than that, I'm just putting that in so I don't say that that's all an expression is. But for today, all we need to understand is an expression is made up of operators and operands, and an expression returns a value. So let's look at an example. We've got two variables, A and B, and we've assigned the values of 4 to A, variable A, and 9 to variable B. That's effective. If this was Python code, that's effectively what that's doing. We're basically initializing variable A and variable B and assigning with those values. We want to carry out an operation to add variable A, the sum of variable A and B, to variable X. So we might code it as something like X equals A plus B. That would be the code that we would need. And then in the above example, A and B are the operands 4 and 9. So they're the variable values. And these things are what's known as the operators. These are those shorthand that the interpreter understands to assign and add. So basically that code is saying this variable x needs to be assigned the sum of the value of variable a plus variable b. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what I'm calling an operation, but it's also an expression because it's returning a value. And these are the operands, and these are the operators. So it's these operators that we want to look at today. So these are the common arithmetical operators in Python. So we've got plus is equal to addition, minus is equal to subtraction. That's a mistake. Look at that. Just bear me a second. I don't know why that's multiplication. I'll just save that. Right, there you go. Sorry about that, folks. So that little is multiplication. Obviously that stands for division. The percentage sign stands for modulo. Now what modulo means is it returns only the remainder of a division. So for example, if the thing was 5 modulo 2, i.e. you're dividing 5 by 2, if you're doing a modulo, so if you were doing a division of 5 divided by 2, your answer should be 2.5. But if you did 5 modulo 2, it returns the remainder of the division, which is 1, because obviously 2 goes into 5 twice, which is 4, leaving 1 left over as the remainder. So modulo returns the remainder of the division. This stands for floor division, which returns only the integer of the result. So in that first example where I said if you did 5 divided by 2, it would return the value 2.5. If you did floor division instead of just ordinary division, when you did 5 floor division divided by 2, it would truncate the value 2.5 to the integer. So it should return the value 2, not 2.5, because it's only going to return the integer result, not the 0.5. The 2 little asterisk stands for exponent, and the exponent returns the value of the first operand raised to the power of the second operand. And then brackets are used to define the order of operation. And the order of operation is, as you may or may not remember, the mnemonics BODMAS or PEDMAS, depending on which country you've been taught in. I think BODMAS was more a UK version and PEDMAS is the more American version. Python has something similar in its arithmetic order of precedence, but it's not quite the same as ordinary maths. So just to look at the order of operation arithmetic operators, Python works from left to right on the expression or the statement code, whatever you want to call it, in the following order. It does parentheses first, so operations within the parentheses are resolved first, or that you could turn that into expressions within the parentheses are resolved first. Moving from left to right, but the innermost parentheses are done before the outermost parentheses. So the more brackets around an expression, operation, whatever you want to call it, will be done first before ones with, they're known as the innermost parentheses, before the ones with less parentheses. right? And that does that from left to right. Then it does exponents. So it does exponentiation using the double asterisk operator. Operator is resolved next, also moving from left to right. Then it does multiplication, division, floor division, and modulus. They're all again done from left to right. They all have equal precedence, so it doesn't matter whichever one is the leftmost will be done first, regardless of whether it's multiplication, division, floor division, modulus. And then lastly it does addition and subtraction, again from left to right, and again both addition and subtraction have got equal precedence to each other, so it doesn't matter which, just whichever one is furthest to the left. So you have to be careful to write your code and enclose any elements that you want to be sort of like calculated first within parentheses. I have done a little code on, I didn't put it in here because I only did it just before when I started reading through this again, just before I was going to cover it off. And so let's just have a look at it here. This is the example code that I'm doing just to show some simple order of precedence example. So the first thing obviously is we want to create three integer variables, A, B and C, and I've assigned them or initialized them with those values there. So A will be assigned the value initialized and assigned the value 2, B 4 and C 5. And then the next thing is I wanted to produce a simple order of precedence example using the brackets and output that to the screen so you can see it. So obviously print is Python's output function. That means put it to the screen. A is not enclosed in quotation marks, so that means it's referring directly to the variable. So it's saying print A, and then the comma separates it next. Then this we want this to be a string. We don't want it to be the operator, so that's why we've enclosed it within quotations. Then the next comma, this again, now we're referring to the variable B. Now we're enclosing this again in a string because we don't want it to be the actual operator. We want it to, because at the moment we're just trying to print it, so it says A plus B 2 asterisk C is equal to, and then it'll give the value. So that's effectively what that's doing. That's going to print that out and show it as a string. And then what it's going to do here after the equals is where, because none of this is enclosed in quotations, that's the actual operator. That's the actual operator. And because none of these are enclosed in quotations, they are just the variable. So the print function will print that out as kind of a string, and then it will look at this and go, this is a calculation, an operation, or an expression, whatever you want to call it, and it's going to take the variable 2 and add it to variable B, and then it's going to raise it to the power C, because that's the exponent, and then it will output that value after the equals sign, again as a string, but it knows that in and of itself is a calculation. And then the next line is going to do exactly the same, except this time we're going to put parentheses around this A and B part of the calculation expression first, so that it will do that before it does this bit, because in the first instance, in order of operation, it's going to do exponents first, then it's going to, so it will do the exponent, it would raise b to the power of c and then add a to the result, whereas this time we're going to force it to do a plus b before the exponent. So to do that, we've enclosed it in parentheses, and then it will output that calculation and give us that value. And I've saved that down as order of ops, and when you save it down, if you remember, you always save it down as a .py file. So let's open Python and run that, and let's have a look what it does. So to open Python, we can just put R and type R in here. Now I need to change my directory. Sorry, I need to change my directory. There we go. And then I need to find the pathway for Python scripts, which I think that's not going to work, is it? It's going to need cd. That, I think. Yep, that's correct. Okay. Now then, to run, once you're in the right place where you've got your script saved down, all you need to do is type Python, put a space, and then whatever your script saved down, order of ops.py, and hit enter. And there you can see, can I move that? Yes, I can. So 2 plus 4, so A plus B, asterisk, asterisk, 5 is, and now there's the equals, and now it's done the calculation, and it's put out 1026. Yeah. And then in the second example, where the calculation is almost identical, but the brackets have been included, then this time it comes out with a value of 7776. And if you want to confirm that on a calculator, you can do. But basically what's happened is, here it's going left to right and it's looking down, and the first thing it comes across in its order of operations is the exponent. So therefore what it's going to do is it's going to raise 4 to the power 5, which gives us the value 1024, and then it adds the 2 on top to give us 1026. In the second version, because we put parentheses around this part of the calculation, under order of operations, that gets done first before the exponent. So this time it's done 2 plus 4 to give us 6. Then it's raised 6 to the value to the power 5 and given us the value 7776. So that's the order of operations. If we go back here, let's have a quick look at the example script just to output and test these various operators. So here we are, simple arithmetic example Python script arithmetic operators. So this time we're initializing two variables, A and B, with 5 and 2. And then we're going to output various arithmetic operations. Note this /t adds an invisible tab character to align the outputs. So that's what the /t is. And you'll see that this one's got two /t's. So this is for presentation purposes. It's just trying to align it. So that one will put one tab in after addition. It'll do one tab and then put this one tab output. This one puts two tabs in and that will align it. So again, we know what the print function is. It's outputting. So it's going to put output addition. And then we know addition A plus B. And then there's the calculation. So all these are exactly the same, but we're just looking at each one. So that's the addition one. That's the subtraction one. This is the multiplication one. Right now, these characters for division, you can use that by getting the char map if you want to type. So for argument's sake, I'll just come down here. I'm not going to make any changes, but I didn't want to copy all that. Now then, we want to get the divide sign. Now we could have just typed that in, but that's not. We want it to show the divide. So what you can come in here is write char map. And if you write char map, you get that. And then look, and you can find all these different characters, and you'll find the divide symbol somewhere on here, if I'm not blind. And there it is there. So if you click on that and select and copy, then now when you do paste, there you go, you've got a divide sign. So that's how you can get a divide sign. And that's the same with when you want to raise it to the power of, I think it's only got square and cubed. But anyway, so that's the division. Then we're doing floor division, which as I've said to you, only returns the integer. There I'm just explaining what the double T stands for. Again, I've explained what how to get the square root. And then this final one is the exponent, which is going to raise a to the power b. Yeah. Our modulo, as we said, was a divided by b, 5 divided by 2, but modulo means it's looking for the remainder, not the result. So it's going to output the value 1. So again, if we want to just run that script, we need to go here and put Python space, and I've called it simple arithmetic.py. And there you go. So you can see they're all aligned, and that's because of these tabs. So I had to put in enough tabs so that they would line. This one was out of line because it was such a small, it was over here. So that's why I put in a second \t to get it to align there. And then you can see both the divide sign and the 5 raised to the power 2, that I got those by using the char map. And the only other thing to note is that at the end of this, I've got sep equals, and I've just put 2 little quotation marks without a space. So within print, when you've got a comma in the net, it automatically defaults with a space between that and that. But by using that, we're able to override the space, so we don't want a space. So that's effectively what that's done. So it means between there and there, there's no space. It's removed that space from that. That space is still in the equals because we put a space in between that and that, and we've got a space there, so that's why there's still a space. It removes this default space here. And there you can see 5 divided by 2 is 5 plus 2 is 7, 5 minus 2 is 3, 5 times 2 is 10, 5 divided by 2 is 2.5, floor division 5, floor division 2 is equal to 2, so it's truncated the 2.5 to just return the integer. Modulo, so 5 modulo 2 is equal to 1 because it's putting out the remainder, and exponent 5 squared is 25. So that's that. This lesson's gone on way longer than I planned, so I'm gonna cut that here. So lesson 2 is an introduction to operators, operands, a quick definition of expressions, what the order of operations is for arithmetic operators, and what are the simple arithmetic operators used in Python and how they work. I hope that was useful, guys. I've got all these other bits that I'd also done as part of my lesson 2. I'll break those down into further lessons because I don't want them to run over. My aim was to try and keep them 20 minutes, but 30 minutes is really my max because I think people need to have a break after 30 minutes just to clear their heads and let it soak in. So thanks very much for coming to lesson 2, chaps and ladies, and hopefully that made sense. And I will see you in lesson 3, where we'll move on to look at some more operators within Python. See you in lesson 3, but also don't forget, if any questions, feel free to pop them into the comments, or if you watch this and you see I've made some mistakes, then by all means feel free to correct me in the comments as well, because like I say, I'm only learning Python. I've got no coding experience, bar some very limited experience from about 20 years ago when I taught myself a little bit of Visual Basic for about 3 months. All right, thanks guys and ladies. Have a good afternoon. Bye bye.